That's right, everybody. The Crazy Train is doing another project. Before I get started with this project, I am going to ask you to please do all of the things. You know what they are. All right, so I couldn't pass this up. I mean, this is the Face the Music project, as you have obviously seen from the title and the thumbnail. But there's a music project that's in the Fantastic Ladies, so you know that I have to be a part of this. Now, this is a project that was created by Jessica and Misty. And what they did is I think they just started listing like any song that popped into their head because the list for it is over 300 songs. So it's a rather large project. But don't get too excited because I am not going to even attempt to hit all of these. What they decided that they wanted us to do is they wanted us to do this as a rolling roulette style project. We are to pick anywhere from 3 to 6 or generate 3 to 6 numbers from their list. And I think they're probably doing more just from the indications. Now, I'm filming this intro just a little bit early. I haven't seen their videos yet. So I'm guessing they're probably going to go a little more ham with this. But I am sticking with nice and easy and going to just do 3 for you. And so with this, we are going to be doing monthly updates. This project begins December 12th of this year. Hopefully you're seeing this video on that date. And then it will end December 11th of 2024. We're allowed to set any goals we want. Doesn't matter. But because this is such a big thing, I wanted to go not too crazy. And because this is a music project and every prompt is music based, I'm not going to give you the traditional music moment. I am instead going to talk about whatever prompts I get as I go through them, just because that will make things a little bit easier for both you and me. You know, every once in a while I try and keep it sane. All right, so I just did a random number generator and came up with 3 numbers. And we're going to talk about the ones that I got. The first one was number 69. This is Earth Angel, so something that is earth toned. For that, I'm actually going to bring in this Sydney Grace palette, Where the Wild Things Grow. I am going to bring in the shade Blazing Star. Now, Blazing Star is this middle shade right here. And I think you're getting a pretty good view of what that is. I'm going to need white because I swatched some things trying to get to what I wanted to use, and I made a mess. So to give you a swatch of this, which I am putting in for 5 uses, because I'm not completely, well, yeah, I'm completely nuts. But that's what that looks like. So that's coming in for 5 uses. All right. Now, yeah, this stuff kind of stains me a little bit, so this will be interesting. Sydney Grace makes some really good quality shadows, as you guys probably know. All right, now the song Earth Angel, which is a song title, is also known as Earth Angel Will You Be Mine. Same song. It is, or was rather, the debut single for the doo-wop group The Penguins. And this was in October of 1954. When it was released by the Penguins, it was actually the B-side to a song called Hey Senorita. And it obviously became more popular than the A side of the single that they had released. Now, this is the first indie label release to hit Billboard's national pop charts, and it peaked within the top 10. On R&B from Billboard, it was number 1 for several weeks. This song became hugely popular. It is definitely part of the canon of music. If you're looking at that doo-wop and that kind of 50s era sound, it is in there. This is actually the only hit for the Penguins, and it sold over 10 million copies. Now, the downside to this is, well, maybe. The downside to this is basically when this came out, there was still a lot of segregation, especially in the music charts. So what happened frequently and happened with this song is that because the Penguins were an African American group, essentially, I guess that would be the most correct way to say that. This song was also then, it was played more on radio that featured that, but then also was recorded by a white group called the Crew Cuts, and they peaked with this song at number 3 on the charts, and I want to say it was within a year of when the Penguins released it. But the Penguins version is, of course, the best, in my opinion. Now, the next one that I generated was number 52, and this is Copperhead Road, so a copper color item. For that, I am going into the same palette, but I am going to give, whoa, mirror. I'm going to do the shade Buttercup up here. And copper colored, yes, no. Rust colored, maybe more? I don't know. I couldn't, for what I have here, this was the closest I had to something that to me appeared to be copper colored. So I'm going to put this in for 5 uses also. I needed it to have a little bit of that orangey tone to it for me to consider it copper. So that's what you're getting there. And then let's talk about Copperhead Road because that is actually a song. So this is a song that was written and recorded by Steve Earle. He released this in 1998 as the first single and the title track off of his third album. This is his highest hit to date, reaching number 10 on the Billboard mainstream charts. Now, on April 20th of 2023, so just a few months ago, this song was actually voted in to be, and there's a board that does this stuff, so I don't even know the official name of the group that had to vote this in, but it is now the 11th official state song of Tennessee. There was really a Copperhead Road in Mountain City, Tennessee. And now, since this song became so popular, and it's been recorded by a bunch of other people, it's been, yeah, you hear it all over the country. So this is considered country rock, I think essentially, but I always thought it was a country song. But they had to rename the road because everyone kept stealing the street signs. So now it's Copperhead Hollow Road, I think, something like that. Now, you may know this song also as the theme music for the Discovery Channel show Moonshiners. I guess I didn't realize that's what it was, but all right, we'll go with it. Then finally, I got number 318. Yes, this list is long. And that is Whitesnake. So the prompt for this is either something white in color or something snake themed. And I decided I was going to use that to bring this palette back in. As you can see from the cover, it is a snake skin type of image. And this is the Buxom palette, obviously. The title of this palette is actually called May Contain Nudity. So the whole thing is very neutral. And yes, I've used this before. I just didn't take the brush out of it. It's got some really, really good shades in it for my skin tone. I'm just going to give you... Really, there's two mattes? There's two mattes. That's what it is. And that was the reason, too, because... No, you can't even see that. Because I knew I wanted to bring this palette in, because it was the first thing I thought of when I got Whitesnake. I wanted this one to definitely have more of that orange. And you can't even see the one matte on my hand. So we're going to go ahead and swipe the others. Now, none of these are... I don't want to say they're boring. They're not boring. None of these are crazy, like some of my indie stuff. But those are the four that are like the satin and shimmer type of shades in here. And they're nice. They're really nice. Ooh, a little hard to see on my hand maybe, but like I said, this tone for me is ideal. So I'm going to use this palette 5 times because that will be easily done. I can actually add the other 2 shades with this palette because they all coordinate, obviously. And we do have a little bit of a difference in tone in the first 2 that I picked. Yes, I swatched it to check. So I figured I would do 5 times, considering that's what I was doing with the other 2, and then we'll see how much of it ends up being together. I could have given you names, but I don't know that it really matters. It's the May Contain Nudity palette from Buxom. All right, so that is what we've got. Let's talk about Whitesnake now. Now, Whitesnake is a British band that was formed in London in 1978. They are considered a British hard rock band, and they had done several albums as a group. Well, okay, let's go back a little further. The reason Whitesnake was formed originally was to be as a backing band for David Coverdale. Now, David Coverdale had been with Deep Purple for about 3 years. I think he had done about 3 albums. After he left them, this was what the idea was. I think he had done some solo stuff too, but this was the backing band for him. And I want to say his first solo album was called Whitesnake as 2 words. And I think that's where the name of the band came from. I'm not 100% on that. That's just logic. So I don't know if I'm right. I could be completely wrong. but I'm guessing. All right, so despite this originally being a backing band, it kind of took on its own life as a band where it wasn't David Coverdale and, despite the fact that he was lead singer, he is the one that has been the constant member throughout all of the iterations of it because they have taken breaks or broken up a couple of times, although at the 25th anniversary of something or another, he reformed the band. So there have been several members throughout the life of the band. And he was doing fairly well in the UK, but he decided that he really wanted to also cross the pond and see what would happen with the band here in the US. That worked out through Geffen Records, which I think is a subsidiary. But anyway, when we start seeing Whitesnake in the US is actually with the sixth studio album, Slide It In, which contains the song Love Ain't No Stranger and Slow and Easy. Now, this is from 1984, so you've got the MTV thing going on. Slow and Easy in particular, Love Ain't No Stranger, I don't remember being in rotation as much, and this is from my memory. I don't know how much it was played. This is what I remember because I'm that old. But Slow and Easy was one of those that I was hearing on the radio, I was seeing the videos, the whole nine yards. Because we started getting some huge success, there were a few things that went on. There were some band changes at that point. David Coverdale and another one of the guys like took off to, I don't remember what country, to just kind of after coming off the Slide It In tour to start working on the new album. The next album is the seventh album from 1987, self-titled as Whitesnake. Now here is where it explodes. And you also are starting to see a change in the band. They originally were kind of a blues rock, hard rock band is what the intention was. Especially, I think, with the success in the U.S., I think that may have had some big influences because their looks started to change too. They became considered more hard rock. The blues stuff fell away a little bit. And they also then started emulating some of that glam rock scene that was going on in LA. Now, for me, what this became known as was the hairband era, which is what it later became known as, but that was all based on that look. You know which bands I'm talking about. You've seen them, and every one of them has that good, solid ballad. You know that era. All right, so from the Whitesnake album, Whitesnake, you've got Here I Go Again, Is This Love, and Still of the Night. Those are the three biggest off that album. They got so much rotation, airplay from the radio stations and MTV rotation. Interesting fun fact, just for giggles, is the fact that all three of these videos also feature Tawny Katane. Now, Tawny Katane was actually the high school and post-high school girlfriend of Robin Crosby from Rat. If you've ever listened to any of her interviews or anything about that, she's been interviewed numerous times. She actually was an actress too, but she is best known for her Whitesnake videos for most people of my era, because her movies were kind of B movies in my opinion. But she had dated Robin Crosby in high school and moved in with him after. He has since passed away. He did have an addiction issue, which did cause his demise. And so when she talks about him, she talks about him being this tall, beautiful rock guy. And so she remembers him with fondness, but there is a sadness to that too, because of how unfortunately his career ended. He was with Rat when they were quite successful also. But after that, then she did go on to date David Coverdale. Now, they were married from 89 to 91 only. So I'm not sure if she was just his girlfriend for these videos or when they got married, because Whitesnake came out in 87. So I'm thinking the videos were around that time too, so it was probably pre their marriage. Their marriage didn't last very long, but they were together for several years. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because one of the most famous scenes is from the video where she does the cartwheel across the two hoods of, I want to say they're BMWs, like a black one and a white one. And they were the band members' cars, or at least one of the cars was. And she's wearing that like white dress or whatever. But she featured quite heavily being his girlfriend. Now, there are a couple other things you should probably know about David Coverdale, since this really was originally for him. There was a point where he took a break. They had gotten all kinds of criticism in some arenas and then all kinds of praise in other arenas for the same thing. And that was the fact that there was a lot of comparison to the Led Zeppelin sound. Now, this was exacerbated quite a bit by the fact that David Coverdale and Jimmy Page did some work together. Coverdale Page is one of the biggest albums from their collaboration. So there's been all kinds of things that have been said that are not necessarily so kind in some of the media. There was a point where Robert Plant actually referred to him as David Cover version, which is kind of sad because when David Coverdale talks about it, at first he says, well, quite frankly, that comparison is not a bad place to be. But then he also does go on to say that if you actually look at the influences that they came from kind of the same school of music and had a lot of the same influences. So there's a good chance that considering their voices, they're going to sound similar. And Steve Marriott, who actually is one of the people that I happen to really enjoy quite a bit, I'm thinking the Small Faces, and then it'll be on the screen because I can't remember the name of the band off the top of my head. But anyway, that like he was one of a big influence for both of them. And there's just that sound to it. And then you get a lot of that, I don't want to say scream, but there's a lot of a growly yell that they both do that kind of ends up in their music, and they have that kind of similar range. So some good, some bad, but there you have it. And it's not like this hasn't happened since then either. I mean, we've got the first single that was huge for Greta Van Fleet became the new, oh my gosh, is this the next Led Zeppelin? Because of the sound there. So that comparison has happened more than once. I would say Greta Van Fleet has gone in a just wildly different direction. But when you look at their first hit and you look at the Whitesnake stuff when they became big here in the US, and you look at the Led Zeppelin stuff, I'm kind of seeing that voice, or I'm hearing that voice. So there you have it. That kind of went off the rails. They should have given me a song. I would have stuck to it a little bit more concisely. But I figured all the fun things you may or may not have known about Whitesnake, because there's a good chance you know about them anyway. So I just figured I'd give you a little bit more fun stuff in there. Anyway, that is it for the Crazy Train. Hopefully this one isn't too long. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Make sure you check out Jessica, Misty, and the Fantastic Ladies down in the description box. For this, I am not going to link any videos because I got 2 songs in a band. So I didn't want to make that too crazy. But if you want to go check any of that stuff out, you know that there is going to be versions of that here on the YouTubes. So until next time, everybody, thank you so much. See ya. Bye.